First off, it's all about the youth. It's almost time for another Hurricanes football season, and to get ready, I'll be doing 12 previews in 12 days, and the first on the docket will be our opponent on September 2nd, the Florida A&M Rattlers at home at Sun Life Stadium on a Thursday night. Now, some background on FAMU. They are in the MEAC conference in the FCS at the Football Championship Subdivision. They went 8-3 last year. Their offense averaged 370.3 yards per game, while the defense allowed 332.5 yards a game. The quarterback this year is Martin Ukpai, who was the backup to Curtis Pulley in 2009, and they are coached by Joe Taylor in his third year up in Tallahassee. His overall record is quite impressive: 214, 82-4, 720 winning percentage. Now, I'm surprised no one in the FBS hasn't taken a look at this guy to go to the next level. This guy is a very, very good coach. Now, FAMU lost some key players to graduation, one of which, of course, is Pulley, who was a dual threat for them. His quarterback rating was 140.43 last year, and when we played him last year down in Sun Life Stadium, he went 10 for 25, 144 yards, no touchdowns, and 1 INT. But where he hurt us, to an extent, was on the ground, and this is what we're going to have to work on before we go to Columbus 9 days later. Pulley last year rushed for 81 yards on 17 carries. That's 4.8 yards per carry and a touchdown. And he was also the MEAC Offensive Player of the Year last year. And that's gonna be a drop off. But they say Ukpai, from what I'm reading in the MEAC, is supposed to, from me other coaches in the MEAC, is supposed to be very, very good. So we will have to be aware of that. Another key player they lost to graduation was, of course, Leroy Van, and that guy was the goods, especially on kick and punt returns. Against us, he returned 9 kicks for 191 yards, but only 1 punt return for 15 yards. I mean, Jarrell Stewart from Deerfield Beach is going to have the awesome responsibility of having to fill those huge shoes left by Van's departure. But they do return some other quality players. One of which is senior running back Philip Sylvester, who was one of 5 first-team preseason All-MEAC players coming back. Last year, he ran for 455 yards on 112 carries and had 7 touchdowns. Another is Adrian Smith, who had 24 receptions for 218 yards. Then there's the tight end, problem spot for us covering the Champ Sports Bowl against Wisconsin, in Max Purcell. He had just 9 catches for 88 yards and 1 touchdown last year. In our game with him, he only had 1 catch for 6 yards, but we still have to be aware of the tight end and you know Florida A&M is going to try to go to that tight end a lot in this game until we can find a way to stop it. They returned another first-team preseason All-MEAC player in 6'2" Isaac West, who was a wide receiver who had 36 catches for a team-leading 641 yards and 2 touchdowns last year. But they also returned their leading catcher from last year, Kevin Elliott, who had 44 receptions for 554 yards and 7 touchdowns. On defense, they returned Curtis Holcomb, who had one of the two INTs J12 threw in last year's game. In fact, Holcomb just had 2 INTs last year. But he was a tackling machine, I'll tell you. They also returned Quan Hall from Cocoa, who had 42 tackles last year, 29 of them solo, and he's a defensive back. Another one is a linebacker named Alvis Graham, who was their leading tackle last year with 69, 39 of them solo. 6.5 of them were tackles for loss, and he also had a sack. And on special teams, they returned another first-team preseason All-MEAC player in Trevor Scott, who was their leading scorer last year, who had 74 points and was 38 for 39 on PATs, but just 12 for 22 on field goal attempts. Now, from a Canes perspective, we are the only team, FBS team FAMU faces all year. This is a team that will be a force to be reckoned with in the FCS and in the MEAC. Now, they were picked to finish second in that league behind South Carolina State, who won that conference last year. Now, this year, in my prediction for FAMU in 2010, I think they'll win the MEAC and they'll finally get to the playoffs. Now, remember this after they play us. They just might run the table in that league, and they are very good and very well coached too. We did make some mistakes last year. Yes, we won big. We did very well in Larry, but there are some mistakes we made, namely the J12 2 picks last year. We cannot take them lightly. We have to focus on them. The first game of the year, the thing we have to do in this game is we cannot get anyone hurt, any key guys hurt, and have our guys healthy for that trip 9 days later up to Columbus. Because you know we're going to work on some things. We have to have a lot of healthy bodies when we go up to Columbus 9 days later for that big one with Ohio State. And speaking of Ohio State, tomorrow in the second part of the 12-part opponent preview series, I will discuss Ohio State and their prospects for 2010. I will see you then, and as always, go Canes.